Thanks for joining us here on WION. I'm Aisha Sindhu. With the new government set to take oath in Islamabad, there's growing hope for a thaw in India-Pakistan ties. Just days after Prime Minister Narendra Modi called up Imran Khan to congratulate him on his election win, officials from the two sides have now met in Islamabad. Now, sources say that the Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan, Ajay Bisaria, and the Deputy High Commissioner JP Singh, met the Pakistan Foreign Secretary Tehmina Janjua on Tuesday. The meeting took place at the Pakistan Foreign Office in Islamabad, and sources say that the two sides talked about the possibility of new openings in the India-Pak relationship. Now, last week, India had welcomed the conduct of the elections in Pakistan and expressed hope that the new administration would work towards a stable, safe, secure and developed South Asia. In his first statement following his victory in the elections, Imran Khan had also said that his country wants peaceful ties with India and wants to improve trade ties as well. Now, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or PTI is expected to invite SAARC leaders, including the Indian Prime Minister, for Imran Khan's oath-taking ceremony, just as the Indian Prime Minister had when he was sworn in 2014. Back then, the Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had also joined in at the ceremony. Now, the PTI, though, is expected to take a final and formal decision on this invitation after consultations with Pakistan's Foreign Office. However, the party is extending an invitation to cricketers Sunil Gavaskar, Kapil Dev, Navjot Singh Sidhu and to the actor Amir Khan for the oath-taking ceremony, which is likely to be held on the 11th of August. Now, the two sides, or rather ties between the two sides have sort of nosedived as Pakistan has played a double game as far as terror goes. The talks process was halted following a terror attack at the Pathankot Air Force Station in 2016. But now could be the time for new beginnings. But is it only going to be talk or some action as well? To discuss this further, I'm joined on the broadcast by my colleague Siddhant Sibbals, joining us from New Delhi, and Anas Malik, who joins us from Pakistan. Thank you both for making time. Anas, to you first. Give us more on this meeting that's taken place between Mr. Bisaria and, of course, Tehmina Janjua.
Absolutely, Aisha. It's a significant meeting coming in here at the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Just yesterday, top sources at the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they tell WION that the Indian High Commissioner, he requested a meeting with the Pakistani Foreign Secretary, and he was accompanied by the Deputy High Commissioner of India, Mr. JP Singh. Mr. Ajay Bisaria and Mr. JP Singh met the Pakistani Foreign Secretary, Tehmina Janjua, yesterday at the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs around 4 p.m. local time. The meeting lasted for about 30 minutes where they actually discussed the post-election scenario. Now, what we're picking up from our sources is that the matter of the invitation of Prime Minister Modi did come in consideration, but there hasn't been any significant development that what we're being told as of now. What we understand is that obviously the sources would try to refrain from letting out such information at this point of time because it's all in initial stages. Right. But this is a very significant meeting that is coming place that has taken place at the Pakistani Minister of Foreign Affairs. Also, the Indian High Commissioner, Mr. Ajay Bisaria, he thanked the Pakistani Foreign Secretary on those arrangements, the special arrangements that were done to ensure the repatriation of the Indian citizen, Ms. Reshma Bibi, who unfortunately died in Pakistan while she was visiting Pakistan. So it's a significant development that is coming in here at the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Absolutely.
Yes, Aisha. Right.
Stay with me, Anas. Let me take some of that across to Siddhant as well. Siddhant, we can't forget also that Imran Khan is yet to be formally designated the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The fact that these talks are already taking place in anticipation of his swearing in just goes to show that there is a concerted effort being made by both sides to improve ties between the countries.
Well, yes, concerted effort, but a cautious one, because India will be cautious, because for India, terror remains the key issue. Today was a day of a lot of developments inside the Indian Parliament, because the junior minister in the Indian Foreign Ministry spoke about relationship with Pakistan. He said talks and terror can't go together. inside the parliament. In a written reply, he said that the government desires good neighborly relationship with Pakistan and is committed to addressing all outstanding issues in accordance with the Shimla Agreement and the Lahore Declaration. But meaningful dialogue can only take place in an atmosphere which is free from terror, hostility and violence. And the onus is on Pakistan to create such an environment, such a conducive environment. And the issue of cross-border terror was also raised by the junior minister, VKS. He said that continued cross-border terror emanating from Pakistan remains a core concern for India. And not only that, India also welcomed the last night's development where the US State Department and the Treasury Department has designated 3 Pakistanis who are linked with LET, Lashkar-e-Toiba, were responsible for the Mumbai attack. India said that it vindicates India's stand and said that the latest designation also calls into question the Pakistanis' sincerity in taking effective action against such terror elements. So clearly shows that India is focused on the issue of terror, and talks and terror can't go together.
Right, and that has been the stated position for New Delhi while engaging with Pakistan. Anas, interestingly also, we have to look at how Pakistan has been approaching the topic of India. The campaign rhetoric from Imran Khan was quite anti-New Delhi in many ways, especially when he was hitting out at Nawaz Sharif. However, we saw a sort of a climb down when he made that first speech 24 hours after it became clear that his party is the front runner as far as the elections go. So one has to perhaps take into consideration larger pressures on Imran Khan on ensuring that there is peace, without, of course, forgetting that foreign policy remains with certain figures within Pakistan.
Absolutely, Aisha. The statements made by Imran Khan were actually by and large made in those public sentiment we saw, and that was not just Imran Khan making those statements. We saw those statements, similar statements were made by Bilawal Bhutto as well, and other far right-wing parties that were taking part in the elections. But we saw a very changed Imran Khan when he made that victory speech in Pakistan right after 24 hours of him getting elected. So that was a very significant development. Obviously, he would be having a lot of foreign policy challenges, and India remains to be one as well, and that on his priority list. But considering the fact that he has an experienced team to handle with, that would be dealing with the Pakistan-India situation. Not just that, that would be dealing with the foreign policy primarily because he has Chaudhry Mohammad Sarwar, who's been a British parliamentarian, who's a probable candidate in that race for the foreign minister. He has Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who has served as the foreign minister of Pakistan for 3 years in the People's Party tenure from 2008 till 2011, but he ended up resigning on principles on that very controversial Raymond Davis saga. So by and large, Imran Khan has a team of experienced professionals on his side to handle the foreign policy, and that would be an advantage on Imran's end to see those to actually overcome those foreign policy challenges when it comes to engaging with his neighbors. Yes, Aisha.
Right. Before I let both of you go, a quick question to Siddhant as well. Siddhant, as far as the invitation to, the former Indian cricketers go to to Amir Khan, pardon me, that's also a significant considering cultural engagement between the two sides. Engagement on sports fields also often gets impacted by larger foreign policy decisions between the two countries. So the fact that he has extended this invitation to the likes of Navjot Singh Sidhu, Kapil Dev and Sunil Gavaskar goes to show that there is perhaps some thaw on the cards between the two countries.
Well, definitely some thaw on the card, especially with regime change in Islamabad. And of course, in South Asia, cricket, Bollywood and politics are the 3 things which everyone likes to discuss. And with this invitation to his compatriots from across the border in India, it's a welcome development. But the key question remains that will the Indian Prime Minister be invited or not? Of course, sources also tell us here in India that there will not be any official comments unless the host go public, unless Pakistan goes public. So that is something that everyone will be watching. What will be the official position? And as Anas was telling, that it's only after discussing with the foreign ministry there that Imran Khan will dish out the invitation to not only India but all the SAARC neighbors, something that Indian Prime Minister also did when he took oath in 2014.
Right. So all the SAARC leaders, but the concentration clearly on just one. Will Mr. Modi be invited or not? That's the big question. We leave it at that. Gentlemen, thank you both, Anas Malik and Siddhant Sibal, for bringing us perspectives from both Islamabad and New Delhi on that developing story. One, of course, that we'll be keeping track on as the day proceeds. But for now, let's turn our attention to Facebook. It has said that it has uncovered a coordinated campaign to influence the upcoming midterm elections in the United States. The social networking giant has said that it has removed 32 politically oriented fake accounts and pages from Facebook and Instagram due to what it called inauthentic behavior. The most popular fake accounts were Aslan Warriors, Black Elevation and Resistors. The fake accounts collectively created about 9,500 posts and were followed by 3 lakh or 300,000 other Facebook pages. In other words, the pages seem to have gotten some real traction. Now, they were also creating events and trying to get people interested in those events. Facebook says that the suspect accounts had run about 150 ads on the platform and on Instagram, costing a total of $11,000. One of the banned pages followed the modus operandi of Russian hackers during the 2016 US presidential elections. Although the activity seems consistent with the alleged Russian meddling in 2016, Facebook hasn't yet identified who's behind these fake accounts. But it has said that whoever was operating the accounts went to a great length to hide their identities. This included using virtual private networks or VPNs to hide locations and using third parties to run ads on their behalf. The revelation comes just a week after the company posted disastrous results after it told investors that new privacy regulations would eat into its growth. This time around, Facebook may have quashed a misinformation campaign before it apparently caused much harm. But analysts say the future is troubling because the latest campaign was more sophisticated than anything that came before it. The other big question that remains unanswered is this: how big is the problem on a global scale? If there was a political influence operation going on in the United States, what's the guarantee that it's not happening elsewhere? Especially in countries like India, which head to the polls next year. Now, after the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal broke, India too pulled up the social networking giant. New Delhi has reason to worry, after all, about the impact of fake news on the electorate. Several key states are going to the polls this year itself, and the country's general election takes place next year. Now, Facebook's new revelations have led to India's Information Technology Minister placing the onus of moderating content on social media platforms. Ravi Shankar Prasad said that these companies need to weed out fake news and that the government won't tolerate data abuse that could influence elections in India. Now, in the wake of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, the Indian government had asked Facebook to clarify whether user profiles in India were harvested as well. Facebook had admitted that nearly 5.62 lakh people in India, or 562,000, were potentially affected by the global data breach involving Cambridge Analytica. Responding to the Indian government's query, Facebook had said that only 335 people in India were affected through the installation of a particular application. Now, the data breach raises concern in a country like India, which has more than 20 crore or 200 million Facebook users. In fact, it is one of the biggest markets for the social networking giant. In June this year, Facebook asserted that it wasn't aware of any misuse of user information, including that of Indians, arising out of its agreements with phone makers. This was after the Indian government had shot off another notice to the company seeking further clarifications. With the fake news controversy continuing to snowball, Facebook offered to deploy its fact-checking systems in all future Indian elections, including the 2019 general election. It says that the company will track false campaigns and fake news mass circulated through its network by voluntarily running fact checks. The social media giant is already facing the heat in India. Facebook-owned WhatsApp has been at the center of a firestorm over its role in a string of lynching incidents in the country that were prompted by fake videos circulating on the app. Over the last few months, WhatsApp has introduced several new features and altered settings for its Indian users. The aim is to curb the circulation of fake messages and rumors that have led to dozens of lynchings. In some cases, victims were beaten to death over fake messages circulated on WhatsApp. But cracking down on fake news is anything but a cakewalk, and Facebook is learning it the hard way. Its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, has himself described the fight as a quote-unquote arms race against adversaries who are evolving all the time. Now, volume is the first of many hurdles that Facebook has to tackle. With upwards of 2 billion users posting content, fake news, hoaxes and hate speech are easy for bad actors to spread intentionally. Average users contribute unwittingly. Culture and language add additional dimensions to the problem. Facebook isn't tracking bad content in English alone, but across countries and in multiple languages. Cultural context is another aspect to consider in determining the intent of the content in question. Now, money is a big factor too. According to Facebook, the accounts and pages it's taken down appear to be well funded. Spreading fake news is a relatively cheap process, but tackling it isn't. Facebook has invested a fair amount of money in improving the technology needed to filter through content, but technology alone doesn't do the job. Human analysis is essential in making sophisticated assessments. Now, Facebook isn't alone in fighting the fake. Twitter is taking down approximately 8 million challenged accounts every single week. That Facebook itself has disabled 583 million fake accounts in the first quarter of 2018 gives you an idea of the uphill climb that fighting fake news really is. So there's definitely a lot of anger among the people in southeast China's Jiangxi province. That's our next story. In an effort to preserve land resources, a policy has been introduced to ban anyone from burying their dead. Not only that, coffins are being smashed and exhumed. This move has stirred anger and resentment among locals. Even the state media is calling it barbaric and unpopular. Now, all this is taking place under a zero burial policy introduced about 6 months ago. Authorities in the rural regions of the Jiangxi province have waged war on the traditional practice. They're even going as far as seizing and destroying coffins that many poor families have spent their life savings on buying. In photographs and videos shared on Chinese social media, officials could be seen entering villages and forcibly removing coffins from the people's homes. Residents who tried to prevent the destruction by lying inside these coffins were dragged out. Villagers also say that it took many years to save the 5,000 odd yuan or $750 that it takes to get these coffins made. So the unavailability of land, though, is not just an issue that China is facing. It's a looming problem in many parts of the world. Pressure on burial space is intensifying as confusion arises over what to do with the dead. In crowded cities in Asia, the lack of space isn't just a problem for the living. Cemeteries are filling up faster than ever, and governments are scrambling to solve the sensitive yet urgent problem of where to place the dead. In Japan, the cost of keeping a burial plot has skyrocketed in recent years. Today, a spot in a prestigious Japanese cemetery in Tokyo costs around $100,000. The solution to save space and money is to convert old warehouses into storage facilities for the ashes of family members. The majority of Japanese are cremated, so the solution does make sense. More than 150 years ago in the United Kingdom, cemeteries were built largely on the outskirts of cities. But now those very same cemeteries are full. A 2013 survey indicated that nearly half of England's cemeteries could run out of space within the next 2 decades. In the Indian context, the Delhi High Court observed that at the rate graveyards are expanding in the national capital, there would be no place left for the living. The Delhi High Court has also stated that any open land, especially that belonging to the government, cannot be used as a burial ground.